This is the fourth generation version of Renault's mid-sized Scenic MPV, and it comes with a more upmarket, sophisticated feel. There's styling that borrows from the crossover sector, along with a classier cabin that's filled with plenty of technology in most models. With engines borrowed from the Megane range, it stacks up on the balance sheet too. In short, this is the versatile 5-seat solution for families wanting flexible everyday transport that a Scenic has always been, but this time round, there's an element of desirability here too.
You wouldn't normally approach driving an MPV with much enthusiasm, but with its big 20-inch wheels and purposeful demeanour, this fourth generation Scenic promises to be a bit different. In reality, there's nothing particularly enjoyable on offer here, but body roll through the bends is pretty well controlled, and it's aided by the stiff, sophisticated new CMF platform that this Scenic now rides on. And the electrically assisted steering is precise and direct, even if it doesn't offer up a great deal of feel. As for the ride, well, yes, that is a bit firm, but no more so than it would be in a rival Ford C-Max or Volkswagen Golf SV, and they roll on much smaller rims. That's an impressive achievement, and Renault says it's been made possible by the adoption of special 107mm high-profile tyre sidewalls that are exactly the same as those you'd find used on 17-inch rims. The engines on offer have largely been carried over from the previous generation model. We're trying the 1.5-litre DCI 110 bhp diesel here. That's the unit most buyers choose, and one that's offered with either manual or EDC automatic transmission. As an option, this power plant can be ordered in hybrid assist form, in which guise the DCI unit is assisted by a 48-volt battery topped up by energy recovered under deceleration or braking. Now that can lead to efficiency improvements of up to 10%, although even in standard spec the 1.5-litre diesel is still quite frugal, capable of 72.4 mpg on the combined cycle and 100 grams per kilometre of CO2. You won't get anything like that if you opt for either of the 1.6-litre DCI diesels. There's a single turbo 130 bhp unit or a twin turbo 160 bhp auto only model. As for petrol power, well, the choice is between 115 and 130 bhp versions of Renault's familiar 4-cylinder 1.2-litre TCE unit. You'd expect the brand that invented the compact MPV to define the way it should look. Is that what Renault's done here? Well, many will think so. Laurent van den Acker and his stylists have attempted what is, in their words, a more modern and sexier take on a compact people carrier of this kind, basing this design on the R-Space concept car that appeared back in 2011. This fourth generation Scenic doesn't have the innovative backward opening rear doors of that model, but it shares the same curving silhouette set off by huge standard 20-inch wheels that are intended to make the roofline look lower. They do, and it isn't. In fact, this car sits 40mm higher off the ground than its predecessor, as part of Renault's attempt to imbue trendy crossover cues into this design. But that only goes so far. The heavily raked windscreen still visually positions this car very much as a people carrier. So, time to take a seat behind the wheel, get comfortable, have a look around. What do you notice? Well, the answer is obvious in a top Scenic model like this one. This 8.7-inch portrait-style centre-dash R-Link 2 touchscreen, there to bring a touch of Tesla to this humble family MPV. Here in the second row, you'll start to appreciate some of the benefits of buying a 5-seat MPV rather than the sort of Qashqai class crossover model that you might have had for similar money. Now that kind of car would give you the same sort of basic rear bench that you get on any Focus style family hatchback, perching the unfortunate middle rear passenger on some hard and narrow piece of bulging foam with legs astride a central transmission tunnel. Here, in contrast, you get a far more comfortable arrangement with proper space for 3 adults, decent headroom, even with this optional panoramic glass roof fitted, and an opportunity to stretch your legs that's aided by the 32mm increase in wheelbase this time around. Finally, let's check out the boot. Now, a little surprisingly, Renault hasn't followed the current trend in offering buyers an optional powered tailgate, but This one is fairly light to lift, and it raises to reveal a big square aperture and a reasonably low loading sill that sits flush with the boot floor. Now, if you do need more space, you can drop this base panel to a lower position, which contributes to a 572 litre total cargo capacity with the back seats still in place. If you need more room, you can of course push forward the rear seats, and you can do so very easily, providing you've avoided entry-level trim thanks to this one-touch electric folding system that works either via these buttons or even more cleverly via a menu option on the R-Link centre dash infotainment screen. Renault Scenic is here to remind us that there's still a place for the traditional 5-seat mid-sized MPV in a modern market segment that's stuffed with other, more high-profile alternatives. It's practical, spacious, efficient and decently equipped, as every car of this kind must be. But in this case, each of these criteria has been ticked off with a thoroughness that reminds you just who invented this market sector in the first place. Ultimately, though, we'd acknowledge that fundamental changes were needed to revitalise the appeal of a model of this kind, and Renault has been braver than all its segment contemporaries in making them. As a result, this fourth generation Scenic shows us that when well executed, a 5-seat mid-sized MPV can be as relevant today as it was when Renault first invented this kind of car back in the 90s. In short, this model line's got a lot of life in it yet.